Hi, I'm Adrian, the owner of Performance High.
And I'm Justin, a producer and coach at Performance High.
And we have been doing some jams lately. In fact, I think we've had 4 of them now at this point. We do them monthly at Performance High now. And we also have, of course, we have showcase rehearsals. So we see some ways that singers get confused when they sing a song with a live band that they've been practicing either to the original track or to a karaoke track. So I want to talk about what you can do to be ready to go to a jam or a rehearsal or an audition where you're going to sing with a band, but you've been practicing to a very specific recorded track.
Yeah, how to learn a song in the way that you need to learn a song to perform it.
Right.
You know,
you think
especially
you have
with a band.
Right.
Yeah.
You think you have it down. You know you have it down with the track, but then you get into a live band situation and you don't know it the way that you thought you did.
You don't know it as well as you thought you knew it. Yeah. Happens to all of us. First thing to focus on is the song arrangement, which song arrangement is the structure, meaning how long does the intro go? Does it go verse, chorus, bridge, chorus? What's the arrangement of sections in the song?
Mm-hmm.
When we talk about a song arrangement, that's what we mean.
Right. And sometimes there's some interlude between those also.
Right.
We might have a verse, pre-chorus, chorus, and then there might be a 2-bar interlude that hangs on the same chord or that has a post-chorus ooh, ooh, ooh thing or something like that.
Right. So that maybe the main thing to start working on with that is learning what a verse is, what a chorus is, what a pre-chorus is. And sometimes it's not really that important that you're right about technically is that this part, is that part. What is important is that you have called the part something and you know how it goes. Mm-hmm. One good tip, if you're looking at that, they don't have it for all songs, but genius.com is a lyric site, and they often note out what the sections are. So that's one way you can start learning, how to do that. Long story short, though, verse would be the part that has different lyrics. Chorus would be the part that has the same lyrics every time. That is in every song, but that's all.
That's a pretty good rule of thumb.
That's a pretty good rule of thumb. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So the other thing we were going to talk about was if you are musical and it works for you, learning to count.
I can count 1, 2, 3.
That's all you need to do. Really, mostly you only need to count to 4.
Yeah,
so
I think we can do that.
So often when a song is starting, what you're gonna, one way you can do it is you can just know, there are 16 beats, or 4 bars until I start singing, or however many it is. Maybe it's 8, maybe it's 12.
Of course, we're assuming 4/4 time, which is what most pop and rock is in. Blah, blah, blah.
Sure. And one tip too is the way I will count, I didn't make it up, lots of people count. To make it easy is counting bars, which a bar is when you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. Each of those 1, 2, 3, 4s is a bar. And what I'll often do to keep count on a longer section is go 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 4, 2, 3, 4. I do it in groups of 4, so every time I get to 4, I start over so I know it's 8 because I went 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 2, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4. I did that twice, so that's 8 bars.
So it's like this block of time.
It's a block of time, right?
So the reason for that is?
To know when you start singing. That's the big thing. Sometimes when we talk about, what we're talking about here, one of the things is just knowing when you're supposed to start singing.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a classic thing that happens with singers. And I've worked with great singers who, for the life of them, could just not come in the right place. And that's a real problem because the band might musically not be in the right place, and then they've got to try to figure out a way to get to where you are. Yeah. So that's a major thing. So let's talk about some ways to,
Yeah. So some ways to what?
Well, first off, you can count and know that's how long I go until I come in.
Like I'm going to count 8 from the first thing I hear, I'm going to count 8 obvious beats, and then my next word is on that 9.
Right.
For example.
For example.
Could be someplace else.
Sure.
Obviously.
I was going to say the other way to do it is to listen for the chord changes, or so chord changes is just musically we're on one chord, one note that's the root of the harmony, and then it goes to another one, and then it goes to another one, and it goes to another one. That's how music works. Whether or not you can hear those changes, as in, oh, that was a G, oh, that was a C, or oh, that's the 1 chord, oh, that's the 4 chord. Listening to music and just listening for when you hear something change, like the music went up or the music went down.
Not dynamically, but like harmonically,
note-wise. Or let's say Billie Jean by Michael Jackson has a riff that boom, 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 and then it repeats boom, 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 boom. And you can count how many times did that repeat. And know, boom, 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 boom. That's 1, boom, 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 2. And I got to wait 4 of those changes to start singing. So that's using a listening approach to it more than a thinking approach to it.
And I'm a big fan of that. I mean, both are great. I mean, and both serve in different purposes, but I think something that we see fairly consistently is singers getting nervous and not listening anymore. And you have to really listen to what's going on around you. And I think your brain just oftentimes will figure it out for you if you're listening.
That's an excellent point, right.
And then I wanted to talk through that idea of singing across the solo. So this came up in a rehearsal not long ago,
right,
where the singer didn't know when to come in after the solo. It so happens that in this particular song, the solo was made up of the chords from the verse and then the chords from the chorus.
Right.
So she didn't have to count, and she didn't even really have to listen.
Right.
All she had to do was kind of hum a verse and a chorus to herself as time went by. And then when that was over, time to sing.
And almost really always in music that we like, the instrumental solo will correspond to some amount of time in the vocal. So what you can do if you can't just naturally hear it is you can just experiment, like listen for the solo to start. Can I hum the verse over the solo? Can I hum the chorus over the solo? Is the solo just 2 lines of the verse and then I start singing again? That you're humming, of course, you're not singing. That was an excellent tip because that worked immediately. The singer was just really struggling to, and even though I was playing the solo more or less exactly like the record, it's kind of hard to hear, and of course a lot of people don't memorize the solo, you know. So, but singing, humming the verse and then the chorus and then coming back in, it worked immediately. So I love that tip. That's a really good one.
Let's talk about that idea of cueing off of an existing sound. We kind of
actually that's it, right.
You know, a lot of times it feels very different when you go to sing with a live band because maybe there's a riser or a drop that the live band isn't going to reproduce, or the keyboard player isn't going to play that little tiny thing that happens right before you sing, or the guitar player. There are audio cues that you're used to in a produced track which may not happen or happen exactly the same in a live band context. And that's why it's important to know the structure of a song. Because even if you don't hear that thing that you wait for when you're listening to the track, you know when to start singing anyway.
And that's something you probably need to, the best thing to do is police yourself and really pay attention to yourself, going like, am I knowing when to sing because, well, A, I'm singing along to the recording and I hear a split second of the real singer start, or B, you know, there's a brrring little thing and that's how I know when to sing, or there's a cymbal hit right there. Really police yourself and make sure you're not cueing off of something like that, because even if the band does it, you may be in a situation where you can't clearly hear it. You know, the keyboard player might do the exact right cue, but if you can't hear it, you know, you're out of luck, or again, they may not do it, or it may be something that your band is just not that big. You can't have that sixth sound.
Right.
So that's, you know, watch yourself, because that's something I think that often happens for singers.
Absolutely. I mean, we don't realize, like, you know, our brains make sense of all this audio information coming in, and we all interpret it in different ways. It's, being a voice teacher, it amazes me what different people hear and tune into. So it's just this big processing machine. And so when you're used to singing to a particular track, you're making sense of this data stream that is going to be a completely different data stream when you go to play with a live band.
Right.
It's going to be a completely different set of sounds, perhaps a slightly different tempo, a different room ambience. I mean, it's everything.
That's a big one, yeah.
I want to talk about lyric timing and melody notes.
Right.
So lyric timing. We kind of actually touched on this with the counting thing, but I wanted to point out a lot of times lyrics don't start at the beginning of a bar or a measure, like you were talking about. Like 1, 2, 3, 4. Now I sing. It doesn't always line up that way. In fact, often doesn't. A song that's in my head right now because I just sang it was Rock and Roll.
Right.
By Led Zeppelin. It's been a long time. So the very first word of that lyric is it's, and that comes before the 1. So 1, 2, 3, 4. It's been a long time.
Right.
So if I started singing it's on the 1, I'd be a half beat off.
Right.
And that's a small example, but I mean the example holds true for starting at other times.
That's often called pickup notes. And what pickup notes are is notes that are before, again, the 1 or the downbeat. The downbeat kind of is like, even if you're not counting, it's that,
It's the one where you bob your head.
Yeah, right. You can tell right where the beat is. And sometimes what happens is there's a few words before that downbeat. And so one really important thing to do is figure out which word in your phrase is the word that's where it comes in.
It helps you line it up.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Because what can happen is, the band's happily playing along and then you go to sing, but you're starting right on that head nod and that's not where the vocal actually is.
Yeah.
So you need to figure out what word actually lands on.
When I learn new songs, I literally I type out a lyric sheet, like copy it from somewhere, and I boldface the word that is on the downbeat in every line.
Right.
Just saves time.
Just to drill that in. I mean, honestly, that's much more common in the verses than it is in choruses, but the problem with that is that's usually where you start singing in a song is the verse. So, so that's the main thing. Just figure out what downbeats. And I really actually recommend that a lot, which is printing out lyrics or music and getting a visual, like looking at it, underlining some stuff. That can be really powerful in learning a song. One more thing.
Yeah. Finding your melody note. Sometimes it's easy. Sometimes you come in without thinking about it. Sometimes you might have trouble finding your first note. I do sometimes. In fact, I did last night at rehearsal because we're doing a song where when I start singing, the song moves from minor to major. So I have to think, not feel or guess where the note's going to be. And what you can do is train yourself to identify the tonic or the root or the key of the song.
Right.
So like if the key is whatever this note is right here, you can then figure out, is the note that I'm singing that note or higher, and how much higher or lower? So if my first note is, say, a third, I'm going to start singing here, but I tune to that tonic, and I know this is my first note, or whatever it is. It can be anything in the scale, obviously, but knowing what that relationship is can help you think your way through something that is failing you when you're trying to just feel it or guess it.
And don't forget, I tell people all the time in performance classes, that noise making she was just doing, you can totally do that, maybe hide it a little bit, but you can totally do that in the beginning of the song, in the intro before the vocal. And very often, this is a performer's trick, very often when you will hear ad-libby stuff like, in the beginning of a song, that's the singer finding their note.
Really?
Yeah, that's what a lot of times performers will do to help themselves figure out where do I need to be. They'll go, and make
I don't do that.
You don't do that, but you can all do one of those, any kind of little ad-libby sound to help find your note.
I definitely do that for harmonies. That if I'm singing harmonies on stage for the first time, like if it's a new song, I'll kind of tune my harmony off the mic. There it is, that's the note, yep, and then come back in onto the mic.
And I think sometimes, I don't know what performers are thinking, but when I teach performance, a lot of times it seems like people might think that's cheating or not allowed or something, but it totally is. You can absolutely find your note off mic, or on, and before you need to start singing. And the last thing I would say is, very often what can help, and I even do it as a musician sometimes, is training yourself to focus on just one instrument for your cues. In the beginning of a song or the intro, deciding I'm just going to pay very close attention to the bass. Maybe it's Billie Jean and I need to listen to the boom, 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 boom. Maybe it's the drums and I'm going to listen for when the drummer goes da-da-da-da and does something different. Then I know it's time to go. I'm going to listen to the keys because there's a melody in the keys part and I'm going to wait for that melody to get done. Whatever it is, rather than trying to listen to everything, or God forbid, not listening at all. We talked about that in the beginning. Instead of trying to listen to everything, just picking out one instrument. Now, again, this isn't picking out one sound or one little cue or one little thing that happens, but it's sort of mentally learning another instrument's part that you're going to, follow along with their part, and then you know when to go, whether that's a break or an ooh part, or the chorus ends and then there's a little bit of space before you start singing the next verse. Focusing on, I need to listen to the piano right there because I'm going to listen to the piano. It's going to one note, another set of notes, another set of notes, fourth set of notes, then I sing. Again, rather than trying to make sense out of everything all at once.
Cool.
Yeah.
I think we covered it all.
I think we covered it all. Yeah.
So in sum, count, know how the song goes, not just lyrics, but the structure of the song, and listen. Listening will do a whole lot.
Listening will do a ton.
All right. I'll see you guys next time.